Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 56 of the Dads and Ed podcast. We are so excited to be here tonight. You can see we are a man down, but we'll explain that here in just a second. So my name is Josh Allen, tech integrationist. I have 4 wonderful kids, and for those of you that happen to be watching online or want to see the YouTube, I know. Someone was nice and cozy in their seat until Dad decided to wake her up. So I don't have the Lion King music.
Mm-hmm.
This is Avery. Oh, Mom is just in time, too. She wasn't really happy about being there. Say hi. She was asleep, so I woke her up. But all right, I'm going to hand her off to Mom here. Devin, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Will do. All right. I was going to say, too, that we were a man down, but that we might have had a good replacement there. That might have been probably just as understandable as Brent is some of the time. But, whatever. I'm Devin, Instructional Technology Program Lead for the Council Bluffs Schools in Council Bluffs, Iowa. My wife is actually out. Erin is out staining cabinets right now. Yeah, it sounds terrible, and I haven't helped yet.
Good job.
Yeah, I kind of said, I'm all for the project, but I don't really want to do it.
Settle in, fans. We're in for a long Dads and Ed tonight.
She's had this bug to do this and kind of started. And she's doing a great job. It looks really good. My 2 wonderful kids, Grace is 12 and in the 7th grade, and Claire is 10 and in the 5th grade. Both are just about getting ready to go to bed.
Normally at this point in the show, Brent Catlett would introduce himself, but I don't know. Was it a full hour ago that we got a message from him?
Maybe a full hour by now.
Maybe a full. Okay. Catlett is at the Royals game tonight. He has secured tickets, so I went up and changed into my Cleveland Indians baseball shirt. What I told Catlett is that those tickets are probably pretty easy to come by, since the Royals are 9 games back in the Central. I don't even know how many games in the wild card, but he claims that he may join us later tonight. I don't know what Vegas says the odds of that happening are, but probably somewhere around Nebraska-Oregon football odds for this weekend, which are very close. So
yeah, let's see. That game I think is in the 6th inning right now, which tells me unless he left early, there is no chance we're seeing that game.
Yeah, you gotta qualify. It's like preseason predictions when you say the Pats are gonna win if Gronkowski comes back healthy, or if Brady comes back in midseason form. You try and qualify it so you don't look like an idiot at the end of the show, end of the year. If you know baseball, you know that 3 innings takes roughly an hour if things are going at a normal pace. We're not going to be on here that long, unless Devin is really trying to get out of staining the cabinets.
That's true, and we may, but every 3 innings, does take about an hour. But if looking at the box score is any indication, the last 3 innings for the A's took about an hour and a half or 2 hours because they scored 8 runs.
Oh.
So the Royals are down 11-3. He might have left early.
He may have. I bet a lot of people have, and traffic won't be as bad. He's got to drive home too. Although, isn't he the one? He's done it mobile, hasn't he?
He has done it mobile before.
Yeah.
Coming home
we don't
from
recommend it. Yeah, shocker.
Yeah,
we don't recommend that, folks. Don't participate in Dads and Ed and drive.
No.
At any rate, we're excited. Dave Guymon is going to be here. We're going to talk football rivalry with him. We're going to talk about getting healthy. He's been doing both of those, and we'll probably talk like education stuff too, because we kind of do that. So, if you want to get in touch with us, use the hashtag Dads and Ed on Twitter. We found out last week that if you are watching on YouTube, there's actually a chat box on the right-hand side. Thanks to former guest Joe Sanfilippo for pointing that out to us. Appreciate that. So we got that up and running now. Email the show, dadsanded@gmail.com, @dadsanded on Twitter. We are a part of the Edu Podcast Network. You can catch us on that website, edupodcastnetwork.com. Check out our website, dadsanded.podbean.com. Subscribe in iTunes or Google Play. Just do a search for Dads and Ed. So, having said all that, Devin and I were chatting before the show, and it's kind of like, what do we want to talk about? And we realized we had just had like a 10, 15-minute conversation about technology integration. And technology integration is one of those things that we do every day, and we don't always talk about here, although it is part of the show. Dad's in ed. But,
Yeah.
one of the things that I was talking with Devin about is I've been in this new position at Lewis Central for about 3 years now. This is my start of my third year, and I sometimes struggle with the concept of what happened before me. The year before I came, they went 1-to-1. Between in the last 3 years at one of our schools that has 900 kids, we've added 900 computers. We're now essentially 1-to-1 at that building. And I forget that we're not that far away from not having a lot of access to devices or
Yeah.
a good wireless network. So um, I'm very encouraged by the teachers that we have and the elementary teachers that are pushing their kids to do more. And then earlier last week, I guess, end of last week, we got a reassuring comment from one of our middle school teachers who said, this is the first year I haven't had to teach kids how to make a Google Slides presentation.
Yeah.
And I'm that short comment is total validation for all the work that we've been putting in. They get an extra day of teaching because of the work that the elementary teachers are putting in. So, the technology integration piece is difficult, and it's hard to get people to switch directions and replace old habits with new ones, even though we claim they're efficient and we can show that they're engaging. But it's sometimes a tough sell.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I was just talking to all of our secondary 6 through 12 core area teachers today for a few minutes because we finally have kind of some expectations, some technology grade level expectations into our curriculum, and this was kind of a rollout for that, so they can start interacting with that. And the thing that's hard about that, and I was telling Josh earlier, is that this begins our 5th full year of 1-to-1 in our high school, 4th full year in our middle school this year, and so I feel like it does take a couple of years, a few years to gain the momentum, to make things kind of just part of the way you do business. It's like I feel like even after some of those conversations today that not quite there yet. And I don't know what the turning point is, and I'm not always sure where the push comes from. Matt Glover did a keynote at our summer academy this year, or no, it wasn't Matt Glover. Who was it? It was somebody. Maybe it was Matt Glover. But talked about this idea of nudging versus pushing. And I feel like I push a lot. But I feel like nudging doesn't always work. You know what I mean? Like you've worked with a lot of teachers, not only in this district, but in your former district. And sometimes that nudge just doesn't quite get you going quickly enough. And so I don't know if you struggle with it. I struggle with how to balance going too fast and going too slow.
Yeah, my wife and I have had this conversation on numerous occasions, and I think we probably had it too off the off the record or off the show. But I get annoyed with the stuff that I've been fighting for 9 years now.
Right.
I still have to have the same arguments for time and resources and teacher acceptance that I did when I started doing technology integration however many years ago it was, 9 years I think.
Right.
And that's the part that gets the most frustrating to me is having to do it over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, and it's not that people don't want to do it, it's just, like I said, being able to drop something else to move on to something new.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I was mentioning before the show that today and tomorrow, my fabulous teacher librarian Lynn Kleinmeyer and I have been helping our 3rd grade teachers with the MAPS activity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good example of teachers. Some probably were forced to. We've got some fabulous leaders at our elementary that probably pushed some of their colleagues out of their comfort zone a little bit. With just using Chromebooks and using the technology. And so I'm sure they have, had done some coloring in the map activities and Crayola this and Crayola that, and maybe they still do some of it. That's great, but all of them are required now to do this map activity where we go explore what you can do with the Google Map. And we
Right.
talk about what the differences are between an electronic one and a paper one. You
Right.
know, we talk about how you can't drag the little orange Street View guy into a map on a book.
Right.
And then what's the purpose? We ask questions like why would people use this? Like what are you going to do with it? Not like, oh, I'm going to go drag the orange guy in and look at my house and look at Tasty Treat down the street. And so I think that's part of it. Someone with influence has to get buy-in. And
Yeah.
it can't be someone who's techie, because when Devin and I show up and we do all this fancy stuff, a lot
Yeah.
of teachers say, oh, isn't that cute? Look at those guys and doing their cool stuff. But how do we get the non-techie ones to be accepting of it so it's just part of everyday life?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you keep talking. We talk about those kind of substitution things if we want to talk in language of SAMR or something else.
Hmm.
But what I have a hard time with is, would it be okay for me? So let's say I was a teacher who was really techie. Would it be okay for me to just swear up and say, you know what? I think it's stupid to use paper. I'm never going to have kids use paper.
Yeah.
We're not going to use paper in my classroom. We're not going to use sticky notes. We will use no paper product because
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. Or we'll never a lot of conversation. We're
Yeah.
only going to do it over the computer. And I think that's the thing that sometimes people think. I feel like I'm always defending myself to teachers to say things like, now I'm not saying you'll always do it this way, but boy, shouldn't we give kids the opportunity to do it both ways?
Right.
I feel like I'm always defending that idea of, just because, and we've talked about this before, that idea of having even technology in the title of our positions. Kind of some people see that or perceive it as you're always going to use it, and I feel like I shouldn't have to defend that anymore. I don't have to defend the other way.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice. Bill Little, big #1 show fan. Can we give him
Yeah,
that?
probably. Yeah.
Well, he made a comment about my Indians jersey, so I don't really know if I'll go #1 yet, Bill. But Bill is down in ISD with Brent, and he said they had the same conversation today, and I
Yeah.
think that all schools have this conversation. And it is tough because the other thing, you talk about defending yourself. I feel like people always think that, or people think that I don't think you should use paper at all.
Right.
And I come back with, well, no, like, yeah, there should be some balance with everything, but no
Right.
one else is talking about the technology part.
That's right.
And while I don't think you should use technology for everything, I think some people say, well, we're not going to use technology for anything. Well, that's fine, but use it for something.
Right.
They say that they don't want to use it for everything, but then they don't use it for anything.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's why I
have
think
some middle ground.
really good. We've worked in our district for a number of years now, to kind of build these common expectations or grade level expectations, and really they are, most of them are of the simple variety. It's the things you're talking about. It's the map activity, right? Are we utilizing tools to do things like capture and annotate images? Are we using them to collaborate online? Are kids having all of these opportunities, regardless of their, teacher lottery? Is every kid having that opportunity at some point? And again, doesn't mean we're always doing it. I don't think any of us are ever kind of promoting that idea. But why wouldn't you? That's the question, I think, and I can't remember if you just said it or if we talked about it earlier. Why wouldn't you do the map thing where I can drop the little peg man in and see something? I can't do that on the map. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So we could go on for hours about this, and a lot of times we do, actually. But it's always a fascinating discussion, and the thing that I don't know if I take comfort in it, but the fact that Bill's chiming in from 3 hours away and having the same issues, and I know we can hit up a lot of people that are also having the same issues. So I guess on one hand, it is kind of nice that everyone is dealing with this. But
yes.
all right, dad moment of the week. So tonight was a busy night around the Allen household. It was soccer night. It was also dance night, so we were kind of all over the place. Um, I got the privilege of going to Maddox's soccer game, which was great. Uh, Tonight, in the second half, he got to play goalie, which is fantastic. So uh, he played goalie for the second half. They have only had one practice in 3 games because practice has got rained out the last couple times. So he hasn't practiced goalie at all. We haven't played soccer in 2 years, so he gets thrown in the second half. And as a dad, that scared the living crap out of me because I don't know
Yeah.
anything about soccer, but I know that my son is the last line of defense. So of course he gets the first one, saves the first one. Then uh, our team gets called for tripping in the little goalie box, I think it's called. So
Uh-huh.
again, I don't know anything about soccer, but that means the kid gets a free kick. And as a dad, when you see it's one-on-one, their kid against your son, my heart was in my throat. I was nuts.
Right.
Sure enough, kid kicks it. It rolls right underneath Maddox's outstretched body. Goes it touches his shirt as it goes underneath, and he scores a goal. I felt horrible. Felt horrible for him, but there's nothing you can do. You kind
Right.
of just got to let it go. It's part of life. Things happen. We talked about it after the game. I said, okay, yeah, you let one go by, but you saved 3 or 4 others. And I
Right.
said there is not a goalie on the planet who has played more than 3 games that has not let a free kick go.
Yeah.
And even my wife and I were talking about it afterwards. If you think back to the Olympics, and the final game was decided in penalty kicks,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was 5-4. The goalie for Brazil stopped one goal,
Yeah.
and that's what ends up winning. I mean, it's crazy. So I felt bad for him. He was fine afterwards. But as a dad, seeing your kid out there, and I don't want to say seeing him fail, but
Yeah.
on the one hand, it's good. It's good for kids to experience that every now and then. But on the other hand, you just felt bad for him. So
Yeah. I hear
anyway,
you. Mine is kind of sports related this week too, even though we not always sports related. This was the first week Grace had cross country. So last year she ran it, but they didn't get to run in races as sixth graders. They just kind of got to practice and do the running and all that good stuff. And she had 2 meets this week. Tuesday she ran over in Bellevue, and it was a hot day. Tuesday afternoon was heat index of around 100. The humidity was ridiculous, and the course that they ran was really hilly. First meet of the year, and she didn't run very well. I mean, self-admittedly, she would say
yeah,
she was not happy with the way she ran, and I think that part's always hard, because I was even gonna ask a group I'm in kind of what they would do with you have kids who you have go out and you want to be honest with them, but you want to support them. Like I always hated as a kid when I was playing sports and I would come home from pitching really lousy or something, and my mom would say, "Oh, you did a great job tonight." I'm like, "No, I didn't. That was awful. Like, what are you talking about?" So it's hard to kind of figure that part out with the kids too. Like, how do you have that conversation about, no, man, I'm proud of you. I love watching you run. I love being there for you, and also kind of being in that mode of, yeah, that wasn't a great race. For whatever reason, it wasn't a great race, and so I think I struggled with that a little bit. And then she ran on Saturday and ran much better. I mean, ended up cutting like 4 minutes off her time from Tuesday, and ran pretty well. Ended up in the top kind of quarter of the race. So that was mine. And like I said, I really struggle with that idea of how do you remain honest with your kids and not give them that false feedback, because I hated that when I was
right,
a kid, and also being really supportive. So that part was tough for me this week.
yeah. Well, good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that portion of the show where we class it up a little bit.
We do.
This week, we are headed out west and bringing Dave Guymon to the show. Dave, this week is brought to you by Flonase. Flonase is the unofficial allergy consultant for Dads and Ed.
Mhm.
Flonase is keeping me upright today, so shout out to them. Dave, welcome to the show. Now, let's be real for a minute, Dave. So back in May, end of the year, we thought we had you, And I want to say it's the first time in 56 episodes that someone had to go curling and wasn't able to hang out with us. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, I apologize for that scheduling conflict, but I was in a curling league here in Boise, and had to go compete. So I apologize. It's just one of those, once in a lifetime mishaps.
No,
you're the victim.
I know.
Go.
We're over it.
Yeah. We've had much lamer reasons for not being able to hang out on the show. That was actually one of the better ones. So no, we had to give you a hard time about it. Not a big deal at all. But introduce yourselves, my friend. Not yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Dave Guymon.
Just you.
Just myself. I'm Dave Guymon. I am an instructional technology coach at Columbia High School in the Nampa School District out in Nampa, Idaho. Nampa is, we just sit southwest of Boise, the capital of Idaho. And I am a dad, as you can tell by the play kitchen in back of me. If you look closely, this large room here in our house is my daughter's playroom. And she was kind enough to grant me a man corner.
How often do you get that man corner?
It's as often as I can step over her Minnie Mouse and princess toys to get to it. And so I have my little hovel here with a computer, some books, and a lamp.
Dave, really happy to go ahead, Devin.
I was gonna say, how old is she?
She is 4.5. Started preschool last week.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'll have to get into that here later as we get going.
Big changes going on around the Guymon household.
That's right.
I'll just turn my little laptop. You notice that mine isn't even permanent; it's temporary, and you can see the doll houses and everything else. Some people refer to this as a living room.
I've got all the princess castles right there.
Oh, sorry about that.
I'll tell you, the room that I am currently in, right? I feel like I have to do this too, right? Oh, this room I'm currently in used to have all that stuff. But as your kids get older, in that 10 and 12 where mine are, we don't have that stuff around anymore. So what used to be a playroom with all kinds of stuff in it is now a pretty empty, nice kind of office reading space den thing.
That's beautiful, Devin. Yeah. Beautiful room.
That's right.
There's my kitchen, Dave.
Yeah. So, fully stocked, as is my daughter.
Fully stocked. The tea kettle's getting washed. You got used today. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, go to our YouTube channel, Dad's and Ed. You can see all our fantastic recording studios. All right, Dave. Let's move on. So you are a sports fan. We are a sports fan. I noticed over the weekend it's kind of a big deal over there in Utah. It was Holy War up there. So for those of us who are not in Utah, tell us a little bit about that rivalry. What makes it so special to you guys?
So I'm originally from Salt Lake City, home of the Utah Utes, and that is 46 miles north of Provo, where the BYU Cougars reside. We call them the team down south because saying BYU or the Cougars is a curse word. So I need to put some nickels in the swear jar after that explanation.
All right, I will change our rating on the podcast as well.
Yeah, for a mature audience only. Back and forth. It's the Holy War, the Band of Brothers, or the Battle of the Brothers, and over the last, how many decades has it been going on? It seems like for a number of years, one team is superior over the other. And the Utes are on a 6-0 streak against the Cougars and have won 7 of the last 8 games. And with the exception of one game, every single one of those has been decided by 7 points or fewer. A lot of bad blood, but my heart's been softened because Kalani Sitake, the Cougars' new coach, is formerly the Utes' defensive coach for the past 10 years. So I've got an emotional dilemma here. Yeah.
That's interesting. Moving from sports just a little bit, just because it's fresh.
We're done with sports already?
We'll come back. There's no real flow to this at all. We just gotta talk, and if I don't ask this now, I'll probably forget. So I'm just going to ask it now. Okay. Josh and I were talking about, all 3 of us are kind of in that instructional technology position. So whether it's in a building, I kind of get to work at lots of buildings in our district, and we were talking about this idea of getting people on board with trying some of these things in their classrooms, right? And how it can be a struggle at times, and the people who do it, they just kind of do it. What are some things that you run into in your building with regards to trying to get people to try some things in their classroom with their kids?
Oh, we're in the thick of that right now, Devin, at our high school. Well, 4 weeks ago, we introduced one-to-one devices to all of our teachers and students. We have about 1,700 students, and we're the first school in our school district to do that. And so that's my primary responsibility, is coaching and project managing this endeavor. And we're fortunate to have a really good staff, but we're all very overwhelmed. So there are a lot of folks that may be reluctant to try this or that. And it begins with the relationships, knowing that it's okay to fail. I heard about a guy that wrote a pretty good book about that concept one time. But knowing that we're all in it together, and that we don't want to dive in head first. Rather, in our high school, our staff uses the language of taking a step forward together. So we decided, for instance, with our learning management system, that there were 4 things that we were going to do this first semester, and we were all going to be accountable to do those together. Everything else we would ignore for now. And my job, along with a team of teachers that I put together called the Vanguard team, is to train folks on those 4 things and make sure that we do them with fidelity. And so chunking it up and letting them know that we're all in the same boat together, we're not going to go at the same pace, and that's okay, is really our focus right now.
What does, you talk about accountability, and we've talked about that too. Where does that come from in your building? Is that accountability of people holding each other accountable? Is that coming from, principals? Is that coming, how does that happen, and how does that look? And what do you think is best for getting people to move that one step forward? Because there is some accountability, I think, necessary to make some of those strides.
Yeah. This is my first full school year in this building. I came over at the end of the school year last year. And there's a very strong positive culture that's been established there, and it's tangible as you walk, and you can just feel that something's different. And I'd like to say that starts with the principal. We've got a great leader at the helm, someone who's not going to come through the classroom with a checklist and look for the things you're not doing well. Rather, someone who is a thought partner. He's someone to fall back on. He's a coach. He's a mentor, and he takes his job seriously without taking life too seriously. So that's really relieving for teachers. But we have teachers who just love what they do. They love their students, and it shows in what they do, it's with technology or not. So that culture may started with principal and the leadership style of our principal, but it's permeated throughout the entire school.
That's fabulous. I do want to switch back to sports a little bit.
Thank you. That's why I'm here. Devin throwing the hard balls at me.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's my role.
It is one of those things, like we said with the tech integration. That was it's one of those things that we talk about a lot. We don't talk about on here a lot. And as we were talking before the show, it was a great opportunity to having another instructional coach in here. It was a good time to bring that up. But I believe, if I'm correct, aren't you doing another kind of coaching as well?
Yes, I am right here. I just got back from practice. Can't really see it, but I'm the offensive coordinator for our freshman football team at Columbia High School, and we are having a blast. We have a few bumps in the road that we've been trying to smooth out. We're on to our 5th quarterback of the year in 3 games. But I'm loving it. Yeah.
I'm judging by the way you said that it's not because of promotion.
It is not because of promotion. We started out the summer practices with 3 quarterbacks, a quarterback battle. And unfortunately, when that got pretty tight, the quarterback who I planned on starting decided to quit. And, I respect his decision. We chatted about that, and he had okay reasons for stepping down. So then we ended up with 2. And then One of them got a concussion, so we ended up with one, and we had to train one of our wide receivers to play quarterback. And we got the backup quarterback with the concussion back a day before our second game of the season. And first half of that game, we went up pretty quickly, 32-0 at the half. And so we pulled our starter and put in our second string quarterback. Well, at the beginning of the second half in the third quarter, play and broke his foot. So he was back from a concussion for one day, broke his foot. He's done for the season. We put in our third string quarterback, and within a 5-minute period from the broken foot, he tore a ligament in his thumb. And we put in our starter, and he quickly got injured as well. So we had to finish that game, the second half of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, without a single quarterback to put in the game.
Wow.
So we have since taken our backup running back and taught him how to play quarterback last week.
Well, that's a good first season for you.
Hey, we're 1-2 right now.
That's all right.
Yeah,
It's all good.
I just see that as an opportunity to do one of the greatest coaching jobs in the history of football. If you can go out and win some games and stay competitive with your fifth string quarterback, that's something.
It has the potential to be a quality made-for-TV movie. Unfortunately, our program, freshman to varsity, is notoriously poor in the state of Idaho. So our varsity team last week just snapped a 25-game losing streak with their first win in 3 years. And our JV has yet to score a point in a game this year. And our freshman team is 1-2 so far. So hey, things are looking up.
I can commiserate with that. I coach girls basketball, and the girls basketball program at the school that I coach at is notoriously bad. When we took over 4 years ago, we had lost 40-some games in a row. Mm-hmm. And in 4 years, I think we've won 6 games now. It's brutal. It's tough, and actually I kind of commend, the kids and the coaches both, who continue to kind of try their darndest to get better, work their butts off to make sure and try and turn that corner, find slivers of positive, because it really is, it's tough to keep coming back every single day when you don't have a lot of success or any success.
One of our varsity captains, when they won their game last week, brought up the point that he had not won a football game since 7th grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
He won his first football game since 7th grade. And this is a guy who's in a losing program, but he has scholarship offers from Army at Oregon, Hawaii, other schools around the Northwest. And it was really neat to see him finally get that W.
That's awesome. I will say, to provide some hope, my sophomore year of high school, I was on a team that won 1 game. That was against a school that was brand new that year.
Yeah.
And is now much larger than we are. And by my senior year, we were 500. Mm-hmm. And they've been fairly decent. They stick around there. So this could be it.
We have a fantastic varsity coach. He is the 5th coach in 4 years. This is his 2nd full year, but he's doing a lot of great things. I mean, he brought me in to coach freshman football, so I can't argue with that.
Well, obviously it's great then.
No, but he's a fantastic coach, has an excellent staff, and we're trying to build the reputation of the program to not necessarily be a losing program. Kids don't want to come out and play for a losing program, which is all they've known for the last few years. So one step at a time, just like integrating technology into the classroom.
Well, I was going to try and make
things around.
Parallel to that too, but there's this theory kind of in coaching, especially when you're in places where maybe there's kind of a tendency to lose more than you win. And that's that idea that, when you have kids coming out for that sport, that practice, if you're not very good, practice needs to be, you can't quite be as hard on kids. It's got to be a little more fun. And that it kind of transitions, the teams that are really good, practice generally isn't very hard, or isn't very fun. And it is kind of this idea you can be a little harder on them. And I wonder if there are any parallels to that. We've kind of gone through that, the coaching staff that I have, thinking about what do we do for practice, because we're not winning. It is hard to get kids to come out and stay out and be part of something where you are losing. And then if we're demanding at practice, it gets pretty difficult. Do you run into any of that? Like, do you have a philosophy on how do you get the best out of people and still make it? It is something that high school kids in our cases are playing. These are young kids in the 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Philosophy of how you go after practice and how hard you can be on kids versus how maybe you have to make it fun.
We talking about practice, Devin?
Talking about practice.
We talking about practice?
Practice.
I got a game on Thursday, and we here in Dad's and Ed talking about practice?
Practice.
Not a game. Not a
Not
game.
a game.
No games. No games. Practice.
So I'm not sure if you're looking for an answer that's more focused on inside the school or on the football field, so I'll try to bridge the two. My style of coaching, whether it's with teachers or with football players, is of course building that relationship up front, and I do that by being fun, making a fool out of myself, being a bit self-deprecative, if that's a word, and letting them know that it's okay to be vulnerable, but then also holding them accountable. So an example out on the football field is that today we were short a few guys, weren't prepared for practice. And so I had to play quarterback on the scout offense because we had 11 on 10. And, I'm out there in my shorts, T-shirt. Everyone else is in full pads. And we're making up plays as we go for the scout offense. And I'm nowhere close to being as good as our quarterbacks are. But, I let the defense know that they got what they paid for. And I'm not making anything by being out there. And they'd laugh and that. But at the end of practice, I started this new club the other week, which is called Coach's Running Club. And I love running. I'd run all day long if I didn't have to go to work. So the way to gain membership into my club is that you show up either late or unprepared for practice. So we had our fun on the field, but at the end, we went and we ran around the perimeter of our campus, probably for about 20 minutes. And the idea there is that you run until coach is done running. And at the end, he said, hey, who's coming prepared tomorrow? Who's going to be on time? All right, let's get a Coach's Running Club break on 3. And we laughed it off. In school, it's the same way with teachers. Of course, I'm no expert in anything. I've been very blessed to have this great position as an instructional technology coach. But at the high school level, I'm certainly not the content expert. So I go in there and let them know that I mess up all the time too. I'll even laugh it off when we're co-teaching a lesson and something bad goes wrong, whether it's my fault or not. And then just hold them accountable to the goals that we've set for ourselves as a teaching team, and make sure that I provide the support that they need, but also that they're not making excuses for not pulling their end.
You mentioned the Coach's Running Club and your love for running, and one of the things that I want to make sure we get to is following your journey the last, 9 or 10 months now on social media with your fitness improvement. Talk a little bit about what prompted you to get started and what's made it so successful.
Yeah, well, it's actually been about 4 months, May 14th, since I made a change. But go back to New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, I had a doctor's appointment. Was going in for a checkup for sleep apnea, and I was going to find out about getting a CPAP machine. And while I was in there, the doctor took it upon myself to let me know that I was overweight. And I was like, dude, I'm here to find out why I'm snoring. I'm not here to get any value judgments on my body composition. But it wasn't the first time that had happened. And I let that kind of marinate in me for a while. Be honest with you, I was sitting on the can one day checking Instagram, and I came across this thing called Whole30, which was shared by Business Insider. The hardcore weight loss thing going viral, and I thought I'd read about it. There's much to it, and I decided I'd try it. It's all about cutting out sugar, cutting out processed foods, eating whole foods, mainly meat and vegetables, and for 30 days, and kind of press reset on your body. So I did it, and during that time, boy, it was hard. I went through withdrawal symptoms just as if I was coming off of a narcotic or something. I had the sweats, I was achy, headaches, everything like that. But eventually I started to get a bit more energy. So I'd go out walking in the evening. And eventually the energy was too much for walking to pose. So I was like, what the heck? Let's try going out for a run. And I got the Couch to 10K app by Zen Labs, which starts you off by running 60 seconds, walking 90 seconds, and you do that 8 times. You have a progression over time. And it was hard. That first time I was huffing and puffing. Things kind of took off, and I just stuck with it, just like we want our teachers to stick with the goals and plans we have for them. And I've just developed a love for running now, to the point that I can go out and run 6, 8, 10 miles fairly easily now. And I'm running a half marathon here shortly, and in January. I'm expecting my second child, January 24th. My birthday's January 20th. And I went up to my wife, a great idea. There's this 30-mile race through the mountains, January 14th. If you're not on bed rest, would you mind if I went and ran that? And so it's just something that I've developed a love for. It's helped me to drop weight. It's my sleep apnea. It's helped depression. I mean, you name it. Happier person. My wife thinks I'm a bit cuter. I took my family to the water park on Saturday, and I didn't feel too bad taking my shirt off. But it's just something that I can put my sneakers on, go outside, and it doesn't cost $50 to get some enjoyment, get some recreation.
All right. And that's an awesome story. And congratulations on the new child coming in January.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's kind of leads into our question we like to ask everybody who comes on. This really came about as talking about this intersection between being parents and being educators. Yeah. And with your daughter kind of heading into preschool, you said here this year. Can you talk a little bit about maybe how being an educator has influenced you as a parent, and vice versa, how being a parent maybe now influences the way that you go about your work in education?
Yeah, well, I was, an educator in elementary school 3 years before I ever became a parent. And becoming a parent at that point, it gave me greater love for my students, understanding that they're someone else's little baby as well, that when they go home, regardless of what issues there may be at school or in the classroom, they have their hopes and dreams and passions and fears. And as a parent, I think about that with my daughter, that I want to build up some character traits in her that are going to help her succeed in the classroom, pursue her dreams, and kind of boring, some of the psychological, ed psych stuff that you learn about, where I've really focused on praising my daughter for effort rather than telling her that she's smart or she's good at this or that. It's that she's doing something very well right now. Or when she gets in trouble, you weren't doing that very well. You're not a spoiled brat, but you were just acting very greedy when we had dessert, something like that. So maybe more of a personal, hey, you and me right now, not dad and a child, but dad and Harper. I really like to focus on her individually, and teachers and students individually as well.
That's a fantastic point, Dave. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Are you able to stick around for a few more minutes, or you got to run?
Hey, I can stick around for a few minutes. My wife is on the beach in California, so it's my daughter and I hanging out all week. But she's watching some cartoons and eating some strawberries right now.
Nice. All right. Well, we won't keep you too long. So if you last show we mentioned that we kind of mix things up a little bit. So Devin is going to start off with article of the week.
Yeah, I read this the other day, and it was from Mind Shift, and the title was "Meaningful Stories: How Teens Connect with StoryCorps and Podcasts." And the reason I wanted to share is because I think there's a lot of potential in using StoryCorps in classrooms and getting kids to not only tell their stories, but to go out and try and help tell the stories of others. So whether those are going to be family members or classmates or anything else, anybody else in their community that might deserve having a story told. I love that idea, and I'm a huge fan of StoryCorps, just as an idea of kind of cataloging and recording all of these stories. So that's kind of why this one resonated with me a little bit from Mindshift. So I will post that on the Dads and Ed hashtag. And like I said, it came from Mindshift and a really, really good thoughts. A teacher that's using StoryCorps in the classroom, in a high school classroom. So I loved the idea, and I would love to have more people using StoryCorps and podcasting in general in classrooms.
Very good. I actually saw yesterday, so today's September 12th, yesterday was the 15th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, and I forget who it was. Upworthy maybe posted something from StoryCorps that they were trying to get a recording from a person connected to everyone who had passed away during that. So the one I listened to was about a wife whose husband was on it was above 100. I want to say 104th, 107th floor, something like that, when the planes hit, and just talked about how she was on the phone when the building collapsed, still talking to him, and just heart-wrenching to hear. But StoryCorps has just done some amazing stuff as far as being able to catalog all those stories.
Yeah.
Dave, okay, we're gonna put you on the spot.
Let's do it.
So, as you probably know, we're a man down today. That man was going to talk a YouTube channel or video that has really resonated. So can you think of something? You don't have to post it right now. You can post it with the hashtag later. Hashtag Dads and Ed. Video that you have been utilizing. You talked about the shift in culture, not the shift in culture, but the shift in access that you guys are experiencing there, or football. What's a good video that you have seen recently that's helped you out?
It's one that we shared with our football team, but one that I could also draw parallels to with our teachers, and it's one that I came across Saturday on ESPN Game Day. University of Pittsburgh has a running back who came down with leukemia, and it was jeopardizing his ability to play football, of course, his ability to live a long life. And he would go to his chemo treatments, but he didn't let that stop him from doing what he wanted to do. And he would actually show up at 4:30 in the morning for his practices with a little doctor's mask on,
yeah,
prevent infection, and he'd still be out there working out, and then he'd go hit up the chemo treatments, and he's back. He played his first game this last week, but just his commitment to his team, his commitment to his craft, his commitment to not letting anything get him down is very inspiring to us on our football team, and we can use that as staff. This is without this little girl, I would just be an Ed. I wouldn't be Dad and Ed. And this is my daughter Harper. Harper, you want to wave hi? These are other dads who teach.
Hi.
For those of you listening on the podcast, Harper has just joined the show. Luckily for us.
And
Man, Catlet leaves and two of our daughters show up. I don't know if you caught the very beginning of the show, but we had a baby about a month ago yesterday, and she made an appearance at the beginning of the show.
Yep, Harper's about to be a big sister for the first time. She just became a big cousin about 2 months ago, and she'll be a big sister in January.
It's a big responsibility.
It's very cool, yeah.
Yep.
Dave, that video, I have not seen the one from Saturday, but I mean, he was ACC Player of the Year in 2014, if I remember correctly. And to have to miss a full season and try and come back, and expectations are fairly high. So
yeah, well, and he came back and scored a touchdown in his first game.
Amazing. Yeah. All right, end of the show. It would be the mic drop segment, and I get that tonight. And as I tweeted out from my account, J_Allen, the title is I Don't Care What You Think. So the awesome thing about the internet is that anyone can put anything they want out there. That's also the worst part. While it's been going on for a few years now, seemingly reputable news organizations that routinely have segments that revolve around viewer comments need to stop. I don't care what Jill Smith had to say about what happened to the kids in the street across town. Your attempt at parenting advice comes across as ignorance because you don't know the whole story. Anymore, you just need a Facebook login to deem yourself an expert on any number of subjects. You don't even have to stay at a Holiday Inn. Sports talk radio has been doing this for years, and they're just as annoying. Social media amplifies the situation because there is no radio host to screen the calls. Now, you may look at this little podcast and think the pot is calling the kettle black. Okay. I'm all for the open web where anyone can contribute information on topics they are knowledgeable about. I think there is a segment of society that thinks they know a little more than they really do. With that, Dave, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Hey, Josh, do you have time for one mic drop?
Absolutely.
Cougars suck.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Philip Cumming, we're going to head down south and talk to him. Probably talk some more football. Got to talk to the SEC guys. So down with the SEC. We won't tell them we said that. Until then, Harper, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Nice meeting you, Harper.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us.